And we are live once again for another Athearn Train Tuesday on the beautiful day, actually, out here, at least in central Illinois. Today we have, as usual, our friends Gentry and special guest George Bogatiuk joining us over in Durango, Colorado, right from his layout. How are you doing today, George?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you guys?
I like your shirt.
Oh yes, these are our brand new shirts that we just got. Keep calm and play with trains. Soundtraxx.com. You can order your shirts now online. They're live. Different sizes.
They're live
19.
right now.
Live right now. We can buy them.
Oh,
they
fantastic!
Just showed up yesterday. They just showed up yesterday. So these are brand new.
Well, that's great. I mean, everybody should be a little calmer when they're playing with trains and actually being able to install some Soundtraxx stuff. I just got my order in today, by the way, and looking forward to doing some decoder installs. And Matt, what have you been working on? Have you been doing a few decoder installs too?
Yeah, had a couple of decoder installs, and I'm a little better prepared today. I want to go over some of the stuff I did on that turbine that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, because George was actually very helpful in walking me through some of the steps to get the LEDs and everything installed on it. So pretty neat process. So
fantastic. How about you, Janik? Have you been working on anything?
Yeah, I got sound installed into that tunnel motor that I showed the other week. And my next project is going to be putting a sound car inside of a Walther's passenger car. So I'll be taking some pictures and sharing that probably in the near future here. So.
Awesome. Well, we'll get to all this in just a moment. First, we want to cover a few things with everybody watching today. We have some General American airslide hoppers, the 2,600 cubic foot in Genesis. They're still open for pre-order. They'll be closing Friday, though, so it's going to be kind of a short turnaround on that. We have some information that we want to share with you on those. What else we got today? We got also some big boy sounds that George has been working with Matt on for the upcoming big boys. We also have some other things kind of going on that Janik's been looking at. So there's just a lot to get to, and we're just going to try to stumble our way through it today. Before we get to it, just want to say we're all enthusiasts here. So when we get to freight cars, I expect George might have a few things to say about some of the freight cars too, because he has a really cool switching layout right behind him there. So he may want to weigh in on a little bit and and also mention some things too. So I'm going to just jump right into the General American freight cars here, the GATC 2600 airslide covered hoppers. Now, Janik, there's a couple things going on with this Union Pacific. One of the first things I noticed was the difference in reporting marks. Do you have any info on that?
Is it up on the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't put it on the screen. I had to hit another button.
Okay.
Here, let me get that. Look at that up.
I want people to know what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for catching me on that. There we go.
Yeah, so the story with these, as I'm told, is they are Union Pacific cars, but since at this point in time Union Pacific had acquired the Western Pacific, then they also acquired the use of that reporting mark. So they put these cars into the WP reporting mark series. As to why they did that I have no idea. It's possible that these are former. Did WP have these cars? Maybe
yes, they did.
Cars. Okay.
Yeah, I believe they were former WP cars, and I believe after the buyout, pretty much, that a lot of these cars ended up just getting painted with WP reporting marks. Just as contrast, here's a Ron Hawkins photo showing the standard Union Pacific red reporting marks on there too.
Yeah, and
So-
we're offering both versions, right?
Yes, we are. I have the photo or our page up with the diagram of the 2-pack. The red Union Pacific reporting marks and the Western Pacific reporting marks are offered together in a 2-pack. So going on to Burlington Northern, we kind of have the classic BN paint scheme here. This is the Cascade Green, and I'd say the original BN large logo paint scheme. I have a few photos from Chuck Zeeler kind of illustrating a prototype for this. Do you know, Janik, if these were ex-CB&Q cars?
No, I don't know. But I know
Okay.
that CB&Q had these. I think NP had them as well. I know they had the air slides. They probably had these as well. So they could have come from any of those roads. And then BN obviously repeated them.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about the BN2 is later on in the 80s, I believe they started drawbarring a few of these together. So instead of offering a 2-pack, you're getting a drawbarred set. Both of them have the same road number with the A for the first unit and B after the road number for the second unit. It's kind of a neat spotting feature, and adds a little bit more interest to your layout, especially when you're switching and stuff.
Yeah, and what's cool about these cars now that they're in Genesis, we're able to offer different body styles with the drawbar sets, because in real life, they would just take any 2 cars. They didn't make sure that they were the same production phase car. They would just take any 2 cars and drawbar them together. And so we replicated that by having different body styles on the A and the B unit in some cases.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a really awesome feature about that, and also we're doing some new tooling to the trucks too. For I think the cars that come with Bettendorfs are going to have brake shoes on them now too. Janik, is that right?
Yeah, brake shoes. It's a new truck. It's a new tooling truck actually as well. So that'll be really cool.
So next up, we also have the Cotton Belt, and these were repainted cars. People really familiar with Southern Pacific and Cotton Belt, for a period of time, SP and Cotton Belt were getting deliveries of cars with both red billboard lettering and also the yellow lettering. And I'll tell you what, that lettering did not last long, especially the yellow. The yellow would just turn to like gray almost instantly, and just they did not age well. So a lot of cars were repainted in this scheme, just like a solid black Gothic type paint scheme, with some of the bill lading and also the sign service too, in that little yellow box underneath the B. So then we also have a couple more here for the Penn Central, Rio Grande, and General American. Now, Janik, you were a kid on the coast, so I'm not sure if you got to see the era of airslide hoppers getting delivered to Holly Sugar, but
no, I missed
quite
that.
often. Oh man, yeah. The ones on the bottom here, those blue cars with the sideways airslide on there, I'd see them all the time over at Holly Sugar, getting pulled out of the refinement area and just getting sent into delivery. It was a pretty cool time.
What era are the GACX ones? When were they delivered?
Let's see here. These would be like 1990s era.
Okay.
There were really 2 different paint schemes for the GATX cars. There was a silver with like the blue dot service driven, and then also these 2, the light blue with the airslide slogan on the side.
Yeah, and the reporting marks are totally different fonts that they use between the three here that we're offering.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
really no two alike. So.
Yeah, look at that. There's a GACX all kind of stuck together on one panel. Then that font kind of spread out across two different panels.
Mm-hmm.
Then two different panels with a completely different font below it. So that's pretty awesome. So next up, Janik, you shared with me something kind of cool. You shared with me some locomotives that you were working on or looking at.
Yeah,
Can you
I
tell me
actually
a little bit more about those?
I just got these photos today, actually. So.
Oh, really? So starting off with this one, let's see if it loads up.
We need to do a drum roll for you.
I know. I better get that bag of peas. There it is.
Oh.
Oh, I shouldn't have hit the refresh. Now it's gonna.
It was there for a nanosecond. What was it?
I know. It's the law of diminishing returns. When you mess with it, it kind of gets worse.
You forgot to
All
feed
right,
the hamster this morning.
There we go. Moving on.
Better. Yeah, so the factory.
So we have this beast here.
Yeah, the factory is actually working on these right now, and they just sent me these photos this morning for me to look at. This is the GP39-2 in Santa Fe, Kodachrome, which we've never offered before. And there weren't that many of them either. I don't know the exact number, but it was not a lot that made it into that scheme.
Right. Well, here's the rear of it.
Yep. So there's the rear. You can see that there are no number boards because Santa Fe hated rear number boards, just couldn't stand them. So no rear number boards. You got the the two fans there, which are widely spaced. So that's a phase. This is called a phase one unit here.
Mm-hmm.
And all the ATSF rooftop details, the beacon, the AC, the antenna with the conduit, that's all there. So this is a fresh 1986 repaint right here.
Yeah, and that beacon totally, not only the paint job, but the details too, kind of definitely reek 80s out.
Oh yeah.
This locomotive. So let's check out this other one that you were looking at.
Yeah, so here's another.
Oh yeah, good old great.
Yeah. Another phase one, Santa Fe 39-2. This one's in the regular blue and yellow war bonnet scheme. So we're offering two of these as well in the same group. And if you look in the rooftop details, this one's a bit different than the last one. So,
yeah, it's missing the air conditioner.
Yep. Yeah, we actually found photos of this unit with no air conditioner. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, a good one to be using in Texas for sure.
They probably hated this one.
The neat thing about those 39-2s, they were, of course, in between the 38s and the 40s. But so, you mentioned that it was a 12-cylinder, but it was 12-cylinder turbocharged. So, you're trying to get the fuel economy of that 12-cylinder prime mover, but they were adding that turbo to it to get the power of the 16. It was really an interesting combination for a pretty decent locomotive.
Yeah.
And the nice thing too is Soundtraxx recorded a specific prime mover for this, right, George?
Yes, so you are getting a 12-cylinder 645 turbo sound on that decoder that you've installed in that. So you're getting the correct prime mover sound for those models.
And
one of the
these
other
will
things
have LEDs and and the dual cube speakers, Matt?
Yeah, that should be equipped with the dual cube speaker. When that underframe upgrade got done for the recent delivery Jeep 38-2s, it carried over onto these also.
Fantastic. Well, these are exciting. I'm looking forward to checking them out in person.
I'll be getting the red.
You know, one real quick, I'll throw in a little detail that you can do with the Tsunami 2. Every sound effect has its own volume control. So this particular unit here that doesn't have the AC, you can turn that volume to 0 so that you don't hear that AC unit cycling in the background.
That's good to know.
That's super detailed sound right there, man. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was these locomotives are looking really good, Janik. I'm excited to see them. I have, even though I'm an SP guy, I have a soft spot for the Santa Fe, so I can't stop looking at it.
Hey, I think all of us have a soft spot for the Santa Fe in one way or another. You know, for my layout, when I get the big one, not necessarily the small switching layout, but I plan on having a Santa Fe either interchange or bypass, so I can run some CS7s and some other small Jeeps like the GP20s and so forth interchange.
Oh yeah, interchange power. Well, this will be awesome interchange power for you.
Mm-hmm.
Where is your layout supposed to be set at, George, so we know where they'd be interchanging at?
Well, eventually the full size layout that I'm having in mind is going to be based on the Missouri Pacific White River route, which is coming out of Kansas City, heading south out of Independence, Kansas, down through southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and catching in just north of North Little Rock. And so eventually at some point I'll be doing that. But that line didn't have a whole lot of traffic that originated or terminated on the line. And so in my world, there'll be a lot more switching in industry, and we'll have a couple more interchanges. But what great scenery, because you have mountain type scenery, big, heavy, long trains, 3, 4, 5 SD40-2s on the point, pulling coal trains, heavy trains back and forth through there. And then I can just have some more local switching industry and stuff like that. So you know, at some point, this is just a small test bed. Who knows? This may be integrated into the future layout. But for right now, this is just a small switching layout based somewhere along that line.
Yeah.
That's good enough, right?
Yeah, that's good enough. And Janik, you sent me something else here. What were they? Some 40-foot modernized boxcars?
Yeah. I actually got physical samples of these cars, and I'm sorry that the photo isn't great. I was trying to shoot on my kitchen counter, basically. The light wasn't great, but no, you got
counter vision.
You got some hill roads here. The Burlington, not the Burlington wasn't a hill road, but the NP was. So you got the Burlington and the NP cars here, and I can't believe how big the logo is on the NP car. If it was any bigger, it wouldn't fit. So
they'd need a billboard just to fit it onto the side of the car if it was any bigger. Well,
Yeah.
those were the days where, you know, people really wanted to brand their box cars for sure.
yeah. So these are really nice 1960s era cars. They're really nice filler for a freight train. The detail is not off the charts, but it's nice. You know, they got separate brake wheels and separate underbody brake details. And they got the really nice Athearn trucks with the brake shoes on them, which I think I shot.
Yeah, you did, but my computer is protesting today for some reason.
Too much cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the challenges of doing a live broadcast and trying to thumb through images.
Well, that's okay.
Hey,
they're on there.
Hey, George, what we need is a drum roll on the Soundtraxx Tsunami 2 for instances like this.
I'll put that into the engineering box.
So one of
You know,
them was the Pickens Railroad, and I had a photo of the Pickens that was kind of like the inspiration behind the modernized version of it.
Yeah, that's nice. It's a nice weathering job for somebody to do there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And we're also
okay, there's the.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So this is one of the new Athearn trucks with the brake shoe detail, and these are standard now. This is standard equipment. So
That's great. It's looking really good.
yeah, definitely.
So that's even coming on the roundhouse cars too.
Yeah.
Yep. So Matt and George, there was a little bit of an update to the UP 4014 sound decoder. Could you tell us what's going on behind the scenes with that?
Well, I guess I'll start. I do know that we just posted a video kind of highlighting some of the things that we're going to be doing for that decoder, but a lot of the sounds have been updated. We actually did go out and record the 4014 on its last run back last year, and we've got a bunch of new sounds. So you're getting a new chuff, brand new whistle, new bell, new air compressors, brake squeal, brake sounds, and things like that we've mixed into there to really make sure that you get the actual sounds of the 4014 on your decoder.
And some of the internal changes that we made on the Locomotive was we updated the speaker enclosures to accept the dual cube speaker assembly. So by having that, it's really going to let those audio recordings shine. And I mean, it'd be just like standing trackside to listening to the real thing. And the cool thing about it is from the factory, it comes with one dual cube assembly, but it has space enough for a second dual cube assembly. And so you can have 4 of those little cube speakers installed and really hear the performance and the audio files that is packed onto the Tsunami 2 decoder.
That's like ultimate fidelity, the quad.
Yeah, turn up.
Well, and one of the reasons the 4 cube speakers really work well is because they're all able to reproduce those low end frequencies. The problem is they come in at low volume also. So with 4 cube speakers working together, they're all able to coordinate and boost that low end so that now we can hear it farther away from our model. And then with the Tsunami 2, you have a 7-band equalizer, just like you have on your home stereo systems. You can boost and so that you can really fine tune it to match the model that you're working on.
Right.
You know, and the speaker capabilities.
Right. And moving to the cube speakers, that was something that we worked pretty closely with you guys on to, know that we were going down the right path and really let the decoder shine and do its thing. And that was one of the tests that you guys had done in some of your sample models, was you had found a Locomotive and had enough space to put 4 of those cube speakers in there. And that's where the idea came from. It's like, wait a minute, I've got all this space inside this tender. Let's use it. Why not?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
And like we showed a couple weeks ago, I mean, it's a stock Athearn item now, so you can just order from your dealer or from our website and just install it whenever your new Genesis Big Boy comes in. And the older models are updatable to have the mounting plate installed on them as well. So if you have an old Big Boy and you would like to put this cube speaker assembly inside of it, it will be available separately also. So I know that was one of the big
upgraded.
Yeah. I know that was one of the big updates that we did to it for the sound-wise. And then some of the other features that we did, we incorporated the flickering firebox, which is in the boiler behind the boiler head, and then we opened up the chassis weight to have that fire flicker down above the rail, which is prototypical. Because George, didn't you send me a video, or you sent me a link to a video? I forget. That was some good nighttime running, and you can see that the glow of the fire and the draft pulling the fire and making it flame periodically. And so we utilized that to get a pretty good effect on how the firebox glow would show down on the rail. And then we also opened up some of the breather holes in the firebox door on the fire boiler head to let that glow come into the firebox or the cab as well. So if you're running nighttime ops, it should be a pretty neat looking light feature.
I mean, that was something that's kind of a differentiation from anything we've done prior. We really haven't done anything with the flickering firebox before, have we, Matt?
Right. Yeah, that's totally new feature for Genesis. And I see a couple of questions over there. I know that it has been incorporated onto the FEF Northern. So if we are going to announce another production run of those, it'll be on the Northern. And we'll have to update the boiler on the Challenger class locomotives, but I would imagine that we would probably do it to those as well. But the tender updates, those will be the same speaker updates available on that, because it's a common tender, that centipede tender between them. So.
And the Tsunami 2 has the firebox effect on it, right, George?
Yes. So that output will be already programmed for the firebox flicker. So you're going to get a really cool random flickering, flashing lighting effect that's going to shine through all those openings. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to see that, because I didn't even know about that update.
See, you don't tell everybody.
You're on me, Matt.
Yeah. Now, that firebox flicker, is that just how is that driven, George? Is that driven off a back EMF or?
I'm sorry, it was cutting out a little bit.
Is the firebox flicker on the Tsunami 2 decoder, is that driven off a back EMF so it sort of knows the intensity, or how does that operate?
Well, there's a smart firebox flicker that is. It kind of works alongside the load on the motor and the chuffing. So you'll see a more intense fire as you start working that locomotive a little harder.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure how that was programmed on the decoder or not.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, this is a good segue into something that you've been kind of working on related to Union Pacific, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I really enjoy the turbine era for sure on the UP. Turbines, Jeep 9s, Jeep 9Bs, early F units, that type of stuff, and running all the reefer blocks and the PFE blocks that that you talked about on the Ken Patterson What's Neat This Week podcast. And so, all the reefer blocks, the salad shooters, that type of stuff. And so
right.
It was high time to get DCC installed in these, because the very first production of the turbines that we produced were DC only. And so I talked to George, and, we've been throwing around some ideas on how I should maybe install the LEDs in these things, because, as Athearn, we have the new LED light bulbs that we're putting in all of our locomotive models, our legacy models. And then I had started messing around with some surface mount LEDs. And in this photo that you've got pulled up here, you can see I've got all the LEDs finally mounted. And there's a lot of wiring going up in there. I've got 2 LEDs on each number board. I've got an LED each on the class lights. And then, of course, the headlights. There is the white gyro light, and then I also have powered the red emergency gyro light. And one of the things that I was talking with George about was, because this was my first serious DCC and light updates for my personal models. I mean, yeah, sure, I've done decoder installs and all that type of stuff, but this was my first major install. And so, talking to George, how would you do some of this stuff? And so you can sort of see up there in the nose, George suggested for the surface mount LEDs and the number boards, get some of the microscale crystal clear and then use that as a lens, but also as your mounting surface for the LEDs. And then whenever you get done with that, paint a layer of silver paint on the back of it and then paint a layer of black paint. Because that silver will sort of help that glow go outwards versus everywhere inside the nose of the locomotive, and then the black will help keep it contained. And so that's what the black paint is on the back side of those number boards. You can see the black paint, and then I've also got the black paint on the back side of the class lights. And so working off of our new 21-pin motherboard, which is set up to power LEDs, I just had to put the lights on the function tabs that I wanted, because that motherboard is set up for up to 8 function 21-pin decoders, and so I ran everything to the respective tabs, and I only needed the 6 light functions. And you can see the decoder and the motherboard there at the rear of the locomotive. And so just came the daunting task after that of starting to run the wires and getting everything on the proper channels, and then getting the speakers installed and everything like that. I don't know if you've got the next picture up there, Chris.
No, let me hit the button for you.
Yeah. So there's the second photo of everything pretty much mounted and wired up and ready to go. I don't know if it's in that photo, but one of the other photos I sent you. So there are 2 cube speakers below the little mounting tray that I made for the decoder, and then there are 2 cube speakers in the front there. And each pair of speakers is wired in a series, and then the 2 pairs come to the motherboard and wired in parallel. So it's series, parallel, so that all 4 speakers are still writing at the 8 ohm output of the decoder.
Oh, fantastic.
So
you're getting maximum clarity and the maximum output on that 2-watt preamp then, right? Or
right,
little amplifier.
Right. So everything really is, it actually worked out pretty nice. So then I didn't do anything with the motor in the photos you can see there. It's still the stock motor that was in it. And then the wire management, sort of with that many wires, and it got a little bit difficult, but like on that plate there, you can see I used some Scotch tape to hold everything down inside the chassis, and I don't know if that photo is tall enough you can see inside the nose or not, but
I can move it. Let's see if I can scroll up there for you.
Yeah, there we go, a little bit. But you can see I used heat shrink tubing, but I didn't shrink it. I just used heat shrink tubing to sort of bundle those wires together. I kept it per channel, I think I did, and that just made the wire management inside of it really nice. So, and then I think the final photo that you've got there was the killer cure moment here. We're going to test it out, and thankfully it all worked. I didn't have to break any of my glue or anything like that this time, and got it all working. That was before I programmed everything, so of course the lights are at full brightness. And after I got the CVs adjusted the way that I wanted to, because the Tsunami 2 has the brightness register CVs that you can adjust and alter, I turned the number boards and the class lights way down, so they're more prototypical, like they're supposed to be. Because honestly, you don't see a lit up number board in the bright sunlight. You really don't see number boards lit up until late dusk. So that's what I
under a bridge, in a tunnel or something. That's when you see the number board kind of like ding.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's the philosophy we take on our production models too. I know that there has been some concerns in the past that the Athearn number boards aren't bright enough. Well, it can be changed, but we keep the number boards at that low light register to be more prototypically accurate. So that's
Right.
what I replicated here on the turbine model. And so like whenever, because I've got it here beside me to sort of show all the lights here in a minute, but you won't be able to see the number boards whenever I fire them on here because, of course, it's daylight out. Like Chris mentioned, it's a nice, bright, sunny day here in central Illinois, and my living room here is on the west side, so all that western sun's starting to come in. So, but
Yeah.
let me see if I can turn you here so you can see this guy.
Let's check it out, Matt.
So I'll leave it muted so you can hear me maybe, but you know, there's your headlights.
Here, let me let me get you big.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, make it bigger. I want to see.
I'm gonna solo you out, man.
Not me.
Here I am. Okay. So there's our headlight right there. And so again, with the Tsunami 2, the flex map, function mapping, because this is an off-the-shelf Tsunami 221 pin decoder. This is an over-the-counter, nothing program special for Athearn. This is all my custom CV settings and function mapping. So I put my number boards. I put my number boards on F6 and they're on, but again, you know, in the daylight, you really can't see it because you didn't see it during the daylight. And then I put my white gyro light on F5. And then I put my number boards up on F24, I believe. Yeah, because it was one of those things that the class lights and the number boards for that matter, but the class lights is one of those that you turn on and you set it and you forget it. So I don't need to access F24 all the time. So I've left the F24 for the class lights. And then I have the emergency gyro light is lit up as well. So, you know, using 6 functions on the decoder, the motherboard supports it. I didn't have to wire any resistors into the motherboard because the motherboards already have those resistors set up for 3-volt LEDs. And that's that. I mean, it actually turned out to be a really nice install. I'm really happy with it. There towards the end, I was getting a little frustrated with all the wiring, and it's like, I don't know if I want to do another one of these, but whenever you get it all done, it's kind of like, yeah, I think I am going to do the rest of them. So,
well, I'll add in really quickly here that you've got your emergency gyro light is triggered with the emergency.
yes,
stop.
that's correct.
And remember the Tsunami 2, when the DCC system sends the emergency stop command, the first time it's usually a local command, meaning it's sent to your locomotive or your address on your throttle. And what we did with the Soundtraxx Tsunami 2 is we then enabled that to trigger a sound effect. So not only will you hear the air dump, but now you can also trigger lighting effects. So these emergency gyro lights on the fronts of these locomotives or the rear, wherever they are, can now be triggered, as an emergency stop, so that would properly display just like they would in the real world when they were triggered by an emergency stop.
Now, I guess that's something new from the Tsunami 1, isn't it, George?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Those features for the emergency stop, that's an improvement over the Tsunami 1, correct?
Oh, yeah. The original Tsunami never had that feature. That was a Tsunami 2 improvement with what's called FlexMap function mapping. And FlexMap allows you to take any function button on your throttle and assign it to any effect that you want it to happen. So if you wanted the horn, I don't know why you would, but if you wanted it triggered by function 10, you have that flexibility to do that. So in your case, where you've got lights set on 5 and 6 and F24 and F25, you can set that up as you see fit for yourself, rather than having a predetermined limitations of what numbers can only go with what effects.
Okay, cool. Well, let me unmute this here for a minute.
And that's true of the Athearn decoders as well. So
What's that, George?
I'm sorry.
What's that, George?
I was just going to say that that's true of the Athearn factory installed decoders as well. We've matched your desired function mapping, but if a customer end user wants to take those and make them their own, you've got full range on it. It's just like any aftermarket Tsunami. So if you like F5, F6 as your lights, you can do that. If you'd rather those be at the higher functions like Matt does with his class lights, then you can do that as well with the Tsunami 2. Your only limitation is your own desire.
Right.
Yeah, and what's cool about some of the Athearn models from the factory, the ones that have a red gyro light, that'll activate when you press E-stop with the Tsunami 2. And that was something that we couldn't do until we switched over to the Tsunami 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I'm going to unmute this so we can hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound get picked up. But I mean, like the photo showed, and like I mentioned, this has 4 of the Cube speakers in it. And I played with the equalizer a little bit on this. I don't remember how much I did with it though. But you know, I've changed the default horn on it, and then I think the bell was default still. And then of course I set the prime mover for the slab side turbine, because this, like I said, this is the aftermarket Tsunami 2, so this is on the Baldwin and Others decoder, I think, George?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. I thought I sat through enough clinics to remember that much. So the pump motor's running now. Let's ramp up to get the turbine started here.
You can also activate function 16.
And that's that. I mean, other than running it back and forth a couple of feet, that's all the running I've done with it. So I'm going to have to get it down to a layout somewhere one of these days here soon and really run that prime mover. So hopefully I can get out to San Diego before too long and run it around La Mesa. I know that's not where these ran, but still La Mesa is always good proving ground. So
yeah, come on down. Just stay 6 feet away from me.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I'll add to that turbine sound is, of course, there's none running today, and so we take a lot of pride in making sure our sounds are accurate. So when we recorded essentially a jet engine, which was very similar to what the original turbines were, we had actually contracted with some guys in Utah to listen to it and give their feedback. And one of their biggest comments was less whine, more thunder. Mm-hmm. And because today's turbojets, they have a lot higher pitch of a whine than what that thing did in its day. So when we were able to work with those guys, we came back to the lab and kind of played with it a little bit. And we basically kind of clipped a little of the high end and boosted more of that mid to low range. And we sent it back out to them, and they gave us the thumbs up, said that we had nailed the sound on it. So anything else you hear out there is just a jet engine recorded, because who's going to argue? But we want to make sure we get it right.
Right. And see, that's one of the things that I don't know if people really consider whenever they listen for a turbine sound is, like you said, a jet engine, they're designed for thrust, and that's where some of that high pitch comes in. These were designed to turn the generator set through geared reduction, but they were designed for their horsepower, so that exhaust was not used as a thrust. It was just vented to atmosphere. You know, there was no direction of it, so it didn't need to be ducted or jetted or anything like that, and I think that's why these had such a deeper sound.
Yep. And you also mentioned that you set that up for a slab side. There's 3 different types of turbines, and what we did is we had the operator's manual when we were designing the software for that. So we know how the actual real one works. and we incorporated that in. So the different operational variances between the different types of turbines are captured in the Soundtraxx Tsunami 2 decoder, and not necessarily in other things.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you all had the operators' manuals on how these things work, so that really helps a lot too, from your guys' perspective.
It was, oh, absolutely, and it was a balancing act, because you also had books out there published that would talk about operating them one way, and then the manual would tell you a different way, and then talking to the guys who used to run them would say, nobody in their right mind would ever run it like that. So you had to incorporate all of that into the decoder, and that's part of why there's so many choices, because there's the perception, there's the reality, and then there's the proper way of doing things.
Right. Well, and again, this is sort of a personal project that I was working on, and then of course with your assistance, thanks again for all your input and feedback on it, George. But you guys can rest assured that this was not all done for personal pleasure. Let's put it that way. So some good things coming on in the future there.
What could that be?
Hey, George, how are things going on your layout?
Well, I've actually been pretty busy here, quite frankly. I've been adding a lot of nighttime lights. So my yard is now fully lit for nighttime operations. I've added some extra lights into the car dealership, into the downtown area. So yeah, there's a couple of pictures. And so I've been working on that. There you go. There's. Oh yeah, those are all the Woodland Scenics Just Plug lights.
Wow.
They really make a good wooden pole LED light that's pretty much ready to go. So, and it's the right color temperature. So it really gives that 1970s look of a yard lit up. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. And then usually I'll do some of this projects when my wife is either at work or sleeping. So I've also been working on some installations, doing some decoder installs. One of them right here, I'll show you. This is a Kato-9 44CW that looks like got a little hot at some point. But this is in the weathering stage. I still have some more weathering to do to it, but I decided to add the char marks that you see in a lot of these -9s. But this one's got a lot of, Matt was talking about adding all the lights. I added a lot of the lights on this one too. So this one has the headlight and backup light, ditch lights, number boards, truck lights, step lights, walkway lights, and there's even a, Chris, I'm going to throw you some credit here. There's even a blue flag light on the dash. You and I had talked a while back, and we both had saw the blue flag, but I'll give credit where credit's due. You were the one that came up with the idea of tying it into the sound of the handbrake. So with our flex map function mapping, the F15, I can trigger the sound of the handbrake, but now I can also trigger that lighting effect to come on. So now when the handbrake's set, the blue flag will actually flash on the dash. And in these big yards, it's like a little module that they have, and they put it right there on the dash so that the engineer can't work right on that locomotive because there's a blue flag right in his face. So
now, is this?
But yeah, there's a.
I'm sorry. Is this the locomotive that you did the cab interior details to with the McDonald's bag and all that?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? It broke up.
Is this the locomotive that you did the cab interior details with the McDonald's bag and everything on the cab? No.
Oh, no. I didn't. No, that's one of the Athearn Gevos that I did, because that actually has a red cab light and the blue flag light inside the cab. This one, I think, predates the red emergency. I know they're retrofitting, but I didn't put it on this one. But if you guys are interested, Matt was talking about the heat shrink tubing idea of routing the wires. This thing has 16 LEDs in it, so that's 32 different wires that had to be routed, not counting track power and so forth. So there's actually going to be a video on our Soundtraxx YouTube channel that will show you how to do that. And then we also have an installation video showing the entire install on this. But one thing you can see there in that picture is I did put 4 cube speakers in it. So it took a little bit of milling to get the room, but there's 3 on that weight back there. And then the 4th one is actually using some double-sided foam tape riding on top of the rear gear tower.
So whenever you installed all 4 of those speakers, George, did that allow you to push up those lower end frequencies on the equalizer?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So this thing sounds fantastic. So I've got the layout powered up. If you guys want to dial it up, I can put it over here and let you listen to it.
Yeah.
I played with the equalizer a little bit here.
Because I know that's
one of the things I chose to do. Go ahead.
Because I know that's one of the major drawbacks to all these small speakers. I mean, not just other manufacturer speakers or anything like that. It's that all small speakers, just due to their size, is they can't reproduce those low frequencies. And so I didn't usually on those lower end frequencies, we turn those down just so that you're not overpowering the speaker, or overheating the speaker, or anything like that. But whenever you put multiple speakers in there, and they can really move that air, because that's what sound is, and you've got those 4 speakers that are able to move it, so you can boost that up, and again, they're dissipating that power output from the decoder. And whenever, and I assume that you did series parallel, so that they're still back on 8 ohms, right?
Yep.
So
yep, exactly.
So they're working in conjunction with that decoder as best they can.
Right. And kind of to speak to your point, when the equalizer comes in, what you don't want to do is boost the low frequencies, because at some point you're going to clip the speaker. It's going to get to its maximum of how far it can travel. And then that's when you cut distortion into some of the other sounds, just trying to overdrive the speaker. And so that's part of what the equalizer does also. It allows you to boost the speaker's strength within its frequency range and minimize its weaknesses outside of the frequency ranges.
Right.
So that way the sound comes through cleanly. So, but these speakers that we've got, I believe they're either the same or from the same family as the ones you guys use. But these can reproduce down to 100 hertz. And 100 hertz is actually extremely low for a speaker. But with 4 of them now, you can really hear it. Because when we were testing some of these speakers, we had the spectrum analyzer about a foot away or so, and you couldn't see anything below 200, 250. But then once you got right up on the speaker, now the 100 hertz, you started seeing it starting up a little bit.
Oh, really?
So it showed me it was there, but because of all the ambient air that's around, it loses that. And that's the first one to go, is that low frequency. And that's part of what happens when we're listening to our speakers, is we're expecting to hear that, but you get too far away, you really can't. And that's why you guys have switched over to the cubes, is because they physically can. Now it's up to the user to kind of adjust, to play with that, to really boost that frequency up.
Right. And I know that's also one of the things that we work pretty close with you guys for the default settings on our decoders. We have let you guys know which models come with those cube speakers now, and you guys really assist us by setting up that 7-band equalizer to help the speakers really shine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a partnership. We want to make sure you have the best product out there, as we do as well. So, I will say there's a little selfishness in it, because I like buying Athearn products as well.
Well, that's why there's a Tsunami 2 in this turbine.
That's exactly right. So let me fire this guy up. I'm not sure how well it's going to come through on my microphone here on my headset, but we're going to try to fire it up here and take a listen to it. Let's see here. I thought I had the layout powered up. Hold on. Well, let me make sure I'm talking to the right locomotive. All right. Hang on just a second. I've been playing around with this. I didn't think I had it in a different address. Make sure the layout powered up. Oh, I know why. Layout isn't powered up. Hang tight. I was testing on something. Hold on. I got to plug the track in.
Happens to the best of us.
Got to flip the
why.
switch.
Details. Let me tell you.
I mean, it's not on voice command. You can't just tell it to turn on.
So what happened is I have a test track that's made of Kato Unitrack that I can do some test running on without rechanging everything on the layout. And I had that plugged in instead of this. Okay, now let's try it again. So now I got the layout powered up. So I'm going to start him up. So now you can really hear that low end on that compressor. Hopefully. I know I can hear it through my headphones.
It's coming through pretty decent.
Okay. But yeah, those low ends really come through on this, and especially that GE air compressor. And once we get going with the dynamic exhaust changes not just the notching, but the intensity. So it'll boost up a little bit as we get going here. But let me let the compressor cycle through here. And as long as the GE locomotive doesn't catch fire here, let's see. We'll get going here at about speed step 3. Now I'm just going to hold it back. Oops. Hang on a minute. I don't have a current keeper in here because I usually don't need it, but I accidentally just pulled it off the track. So you can really kind of hear that low end kicking in when it's trying to work against my hand.
Right. But that low end, it's still not overpowering, some of the upper frequencies like the turbo and everything like that.
Correct. And that's where the equalizer allows you to adjust the whole band across the entire spectrum so that you can get the best sound for you out of your models and the speaker that you've chosen.
Right. And again, I mean, it doesn't have to be cube speakers. That's just what we have started to like working with, and that's just happens to be our preference. I mean, I'm sure there's still guys out there that love those 16 by 35 rectangle, and great. And at the end of the day, it's your model. Install it the way you like it.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And that's part of why we built so many changes and many features into it, is so that you can make the model do what you want it to do, not just what we tell you it should
do. Right. And I know that you guys really pride yourselves on the product, as you should, but it's been built with railroad experience. You guys have railroaders on the staff, former railroaders. And so you guys have a pretty good understanding of how it works. But again, if that's not what the customer wants to do with it, they have the full capability to program it how they wish.
It's also important to note that, all the economy and then also the Tsunami 2 products that come OEM, they're full. There's nothing cut back. There's nothing taken away. We have kind of selected some certain sounds to better represent that particular locomotive that they're in. Say, like the GP39-2, we selected all sounds that kind of are good for the EMD 645 prime mover. So it's important to note that they're a little different, but they're not stripped down in any sort of way.
Right. All we've really done is just classified them by family. Other than that, it's a full feature Tsunami 2.
Yep, default values vary based on the locomotive and what you're doing. So like one model may have headlight and a gyro light, and the other model may have headlight and a rotary beacon, and all you've done is set those CVs to adjust to match the model that you've installed it into. But it's still full featured, and you can make any change. So for full feature capabilities, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've been posting short little how-to videos for 2 years, so there's a big library. And we also have a webinar series that'll teach you overview of the decoders all the way through what is DCC and how does it work, how to solder, how to do a decoder installation and everything, including a new one that we did not long ago about consisting and running multiple locomotives together.
I tell you, whenever I first played with the advanced consisting, heck, that's the way to do it now. I mean, yeah, the simple consisting is great. It's great in a pinch and it works decent, but you get the advanced consist dialed in, it is awesome.
It's a whole new world, isn't it, Matt?
It is, and it's wonderful.
You can hit the mute button and all of them get muted. You know, it's pretty awesome to set it up that way.
And they all go into dynamic. They all throttle up when they're supposed to. Oh.
They all turn on the lights when they're supposed to.
Yep.
Because when you add step lights and truck lights and things like that, they're on the rear units, the step lights and walkway lights. The headlight, number boards, and ditch lights are only on the lead unit. And same with the truck lights, because the truck lights were there so the engineer can look out and make sure the wheels are turning and the train is moving. Mm-hmm. And so the rear units typically wouldn't have the truck lights on, and this gives you the ability to turn that on and off as prototypical as you can.
Right. Well, Janik, you've been saying you've been working on something too.
Well, I don't know if I can compete with what these guys are doing. But
I don't know about that. I'm pretty excited about what you're working on.
Yeah.
What I like to do is take a really old, out-of-date model that someone put a lot of time into, and then I like to try and do a sound install on that. So what we have here, that's that old blue box tunnel motor that I was showing you guys a couple weeks ago. And all I really did underneath the hood is I hardwired the trucks, and as you can see, I'm pretty sure that the wire I used is way too big, but that's what I had lying around. So, and it still works fine.
So that's the quarantine workaround, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's what I had. I hardwired the trucks, and I basically put your standard Athearn 8 and 9 pin DCC ready board in there. Clips right on top of the motor, and it works great as far as a place to connect your wires. And then for the decoder, it's upside down in that picture, so you can't see it, but that's just an economy 9-pin diesel decoder. And for the speaker, in that other photo, I just used, it's actually from Railmaster Hobbies. It's one of their flat cube speaker assemblies there, and that just sits right up there in the radiator, and you would never even know that it's there. So
that's cool, man.
Now I didn't quite have such a hard time as Matt did. I don't have any lights to put in this model since it's got MV Products lenses on all the lights. So I'm just going to run it as a trailing unit. I'm not going to worry about the lights at all on this thing. It looks nice as it is. I don't want to mess it up any more than I already have. So
mess it up, man. This thing is looking great. You did a good job.
And so there's a little video that I took of the first test run.
Yeah, fired up, and I'm not sure if the sound's carrying it through, but did a quick little toot there, and there we go.
Man, what is that, like half a frame per second?
Yeah, it's the fun thing about, playing videos, through this medium. It's kind of like whatever it feels like doing.
Yeah. So
I'm not looking forward to the next thing that you got coming up, because I have some videos that'll probably totally flail when I play them. So what was your takeaway on the project? Quickly, how do you feel it went overall?
I think Chris, you're asking how I feel this project went overall.
Yes.
God, it only took about 20 minutes, so I can't complain. I had all the stuff I needed on hand already, so that was great. The those Athearn DCC ready boards, don't throw them out if you're doing a sound install on one of your locomotives and you have to take it out. Save it, because it's really nice for something like this, like an old model you use to route all the wires through. So
yeah, and especially now with the 21-pin motherboard, I mean, the speaker tabs are already there for you. Of course, the motor tabs are there for you. It's all ready to go. You just have to hook up to the motherboard, plug your decoder in, and you're done.
So it goes to show you, everyone watching, that we still have fun with our blue box stuff too.
And like that tunnel motor there, if Janik ever got the harebrained idea to put LEDs in it, the 21-pin motherboard that we make does fit inside that model because it still clips to the RTR motor in the same fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we're
well, it wouldn't be
in a couple months.
I think it would honestly be a pretty fun project to put LEDs in there. What do you think, George?
I think it can be easily done. Those MV lenses are easy enough to drill through.
Mm-hmm. It was a learning experience for kind of like Matt. It was my first experience just recently putting LEDs into a cotton belt GP40-2. And, if we would have had these things 15 years ago, oh my God, that would have changed the world for me back then. These things are so tiny. You can just put them as a filament inside of an MV lens if you wanted to. So to kind of talk about what I've been working on, I've been working on this cotton belt GP40-2. And one of the things I did was I did like a custom install on the big hole light at the very beginning. I kind of illustrate that. But one of the other things that I did was I've been playing around with an oscitrol effect for the effect light between the number boards, and unfortunately it's not going to replicate very well on the live video. But one of the nice thing about the new decoders is those 8 functions. Man, they really open up doing some additional effects that just I wasn't able to do in the past. So, really excited about.
On the first run of these things, we couldn't do the oscitrol on the rear because we didn't have enough functions.
Right.
And now we got it.
Yeah, now we got it. Another wish granted.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's...
Oh, I'm feeling like a genie this week, so be sure you're subscribed to our newsletter.
Yeah, because I was going to say that was one of the Athearn OEM Tsunami 2s with the 8 functions on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I had to do a little flipping around. I pulled it out of one locomotive that just had a beacon. I'm just like, you don't need an 8-function board for just that,
Rob Peter to pay Paul.
So, Janik, you've been taking a look at some of the new GP40-2s coming in for the next shipment. What's your take on those? How are those looking to you?
Overall, they look really nice. If you guys go on our Facebook page, you can see, I think last Thursday, I put up some shots of the DRGW ones. And today, we're looking at more, we're looking at Reading, CSX, and all the other ones in that run. And they look great. I mean, there's a couple small things here and there. And we go back to the factory and we say, hey, can you guys improve this? And they usually are able to do it for us.
I noticed too that so one of the things that we were looking into doing was kind of changing around the oscitrol effect on the SP version. Were we kicking around with that? Do you recall that conversation, Janik?
Yeah, you actually had come up with a light flash configuration for the 2 lights, and when you looked at it on paper, you're like, what the heck is this? And he kept telling me, no, Janik, just try it. Just program these CVs. Trust me. And I programmed it in on mine. And I was like, wow, that looks great. That looks just like the real thing. So, and then we just took those CVs and we gave them to George and said, George, make it like that.
I think even George kind of like, what are you doing?
Customer always right.
Whoa.
Well, I just wanted to let them go, George. They're SP guys.
Birds of a feather, right?
No, it was pretty interesting, and it's really fun seeing how things are being thought of outside of the box. I mean, even some things I've got on my layout, even some of the things we've talked about with you guys are thinking outside of the traditional, this is what this is done. You're thinking outside of the box. I mean, going back to like even that blue flag on the F-15 handbrake tie down is outside the box thinking, and who knows, it's fantastic. It keeps us on our toes, and who knows what we can do with these things. So kudos to you guys for coming up with that idea.
Well, it's fun bouncing ideas off the four of you guys, or three of you guys. The fourth being kind of like Jack Ross. I'll get a call from him talking about SP stuff, so but
I'll think about it too, don't worry.
But it's kind of cool to be on the ground level of some of these things, and just it's our conversations. Sometimes we're driving to Colorado, right, Matt, and we'll be talking about stuff, and that's where hey, well, what about this? And that's where it starts going.
I know that's where some of the best thinking does is behind the wheel on a road trip, or just complete. Not at the desk. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's been times I've been out doing stuff non-model train related. I mean, working on a car, changing oil or something like that, and I'll be down there just thinking, and it's like, I wonder if we could change those CVs or that setting or this feature here, or utilize the heat shrink for wire management or whatever, and you come back and you tried the application and it works. I mean, it's just the way inspiration just comes at the least expected time is incredible. I think you and I were on our way to McLean Depot a couple of years ago whenever we had the first idea of the LED light bulb replacements.
Yeah.
And, so we
now we're installing them like crazy.
Yeah. And so it was one of those things, drew it up, by pencil freehand, and scanned it and sent it to the factory, and within 6 weeks we had lens molds, and they were attaching the LEDs to them. And is this what you're talking about? Yes, that's exactly it. Move forward. Let's do it. This is awesome. And now all our models have LEDs in them. Yeah,
absolutely. Hey, Janik, there's a couple more things that I noticed that we got to roll through here. It looks like a GP38-2. Does that ring a bell?
Well, bring it up. I can think of one that people were really hoping to see. Well, maybe not that one, but that's another little project I've been working on. I've gotten to the point where I'm not terrible with weathering using the pigment powders. This one right here is partially weathered. I've done the trucks and the fuel tank on this one so far, and then I'll move on to the pilots and the walkways, and then probably the top. The sides on these were usually pretty clean. They tended to, for whatever reason, they stayed pretty clean. This particular unit right here is an ex-Conrail DB38-2, and it was on the BN for a while in the 1990s. So I decided it'd be a cool unit to have around for lease service. So there it is. It's getting weathered.
Well, I had something to share along those lines with you guys too. And just a little bit ago, I was kind of digging through my own personal photos. And I found this mongrel working helper service over Tehachapi back in 1994, and it was a complete surprise because you're standing kind of on a rise over by I think the tunnel right between Marcel and Wollong. I forgot the number of it, but it was on like an intermodal train. It was working helpers, and then all of a sudden, here's this GP38-2, barking its guts out, between like a B40 and an SD40E. It was just a complete surprise, and this thing was beat by then. So it just goes to show you, on the SP, anything goes.
I love how you can see the can opener faded out on the side like that.
Yeah, no mistaking where this thing came from at all.
Right.
Man.
So the last thing was kind of along the lines of the GP38-2, and I think that's what you were thinking that I was going to show next. But tell me a little bit about this right here, Jan, when you get a second.
Oh, what's that? It looks like
hey.
Looks like a G&D unit to me. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think that was definitely fabricated and assembled north of the border.
Hey?
Yeah. In the Great White North.
I'll take off.
When we first showed our first, I forget if they were 3D drawings of these models, but when we first showed them off, we got like, I can't even begin to count the number of feedbacks that we got about these models. People were so excited, but they wanted to make sure that we got it right. And there were quite a few things that we needed to look into. And I would say one of the main ones was where the headlight on the nose was positioned. Basically, we had it too low. And we got a lot of feedback on that one. And Matt told the engineers, hey guys, you guys need to move this. And here's the end result. And we think it looks great. So,
yeah, the original nose tooling is actually unfortunate. I mean, it was designed with the Jeep 38 project, over 7 years ago now, I think.
Yeah.
And I just don't think the G&D nose had ever been utilized before. And so whenever we went to use it, of course, our Canadian modelers, as customers, very much let us know that it was incorrect. And luckily, we have a reliable contact at Canadian Pacific. And I said, hey, I need your help and I need it quick. Can you go out and find one of these noses and get some dimensions off of it for me? And within about 12 hours, I had reliable dimensions. So I sent it to our engineers and we got it corrected for everybody. Among the other detail variations that were on it, but the most egregious that everyone was concerned about was the nose. So the nose is correct by my judgment based on the measurements we've got. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of extra effort, I know, Matt, but, I think this is exactly what our customers were hoping for. And this is definitely, a Genesis model, and we want to keep it as accurate as possible.
Right. And, there was a couple of other small variations on it that could be stated as incorrect on it. And so we addressed a couple of them as best as we could in the production schedule that allowed. And so, whenever I had our CP contact measure the nose, I said, hey, how about some detail photos of this? Hey, how about some detail photos of that? And it really came through. I'm looking forward to seeing the samples so I can see it, because it's always nice to see the work come to fruition in a final assembled model. It's a gratifying feeling.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the front. There's a lot more going on to these models than the front, and we're going to be excited to share these. We got to get some more photos of them, and once we get some more photos, maybe we can pull them out, try them out, run them a little bit, and people could get a little bit closer look on these things.
Yep. And as we were talking earlier, these come with the cube speakers, and that non-turbo 645 prime mover defaulted on the Tsunami 2 decoder. Really hear it barking its guts out if we were to run one over the La Mesa Club there. So You can recreate that photo, Chris.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Janet, bring that little locomotive. We're going to be putting it through its paces.
Okay, I'll keep working on it.
So this is kind of going long here. I apologize for anybody that's been waiting until the question section of it, but here we go. We're going to switch over to some rail fanning and also just general questions for the four of us. We'll be happy to take your questions and put them live. And look at that. We actually have part of a train going through over at, this is the Roanoke Rail Cam in Virginia. So let's see here. Someone asks here, Matthew asks.
I did? What did I do? Oh.
He's asking if y'all are planning to make a Pennsylvania M1A.
M1A, that's a steam locomotive, isn't it?
Yes.
Pennsylvania steam locomotives actually have quite the cult following. I'm still kind of surprised at that. The M1A would be an interesting choice. Definitely worth looking into, I think.
Yeah, I mean, steam projects are still kind of an open area for us, and it's something that we're still kind of looking into. If you have suggestions on that, we're definitely open to them. So thank you for your suggestion. This one comes in from Joe DeLuso. I have a couple of U33B blue boxes I'd like to upgrade to DCC with Tsunami 2 decoders in the future. I guess maybe some places to start on that, George. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, he can obviously upgrade it with one of the Athearn 21-pin motherboards and then use our Tsunami 2 TSU 21P NEM, and it'll plug right in. So that way he can get all the wires and all the installation for the lights, motor, everything connected to that motherboard, and then simply plug in, because you've already got the mounting there that will mount inside the model. So you can definitely upgrade it easily using that combination.
The other suggestion I would have for that, if they are still using the original blue box motor in it, I would replace the motor to a newer motor so it doesn't have such a high stall current.
Yep, definitely.
Good call.
Good point.
And our new RTR motors, the plastic in-bells are brand new tooling, so everything is true and tight. The new RTR motors are phenomenal. I would have no qualms about using a new RTR motor.
Let's see here. There's another one that just popped up asking about the GMD GP38-2, since we were on that topic earlier. Will you guys at Athearn be doing the modern paint scheme without class lights on the CP GMD GP38-2?
Well, Ben, that kind of depends on what they did with the class lights. If they completely took them off and now it looks like your regular run-of-the-mill EMD number board, that would be totally possible with our current tooling. If they did some sort of funky plate over them, that would mean some new tooling for us. Doesn't mean it's out of the question, though, especially if we got a lot of new paint schemes with those. And I know we do. There's a lot of other Canadian Pacific paint schemes other than the two that we're offering. So we got to look into
actually, I think there's like 3 modern paint schemes for those GMD GP38-2s. There's the Golden Beaver, the original one. There's without the Golden Beaver, and then the new Golden Beaver. So the question would be, which one of the 3 are you really interested in too?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Hey, Chris, if we could go back real quick to the RTR decoder install. I saw Sam ask the question earlier. Sam Genova. I'm sorry, Sam. But he's asking what the part number is for that motherboard. The RTR 21-pin motherboard that clips onto the RTR motor, that part number is ATH 67240. And then, of course, we have The Genesis motherboard part number is ATHG67140. So they are different because they mount to the motors differently, but just make sure you get the correct one you're looking for. So.
What's interesting about some of those old blue box models is that the Genesis motor is a drop-in fit on some of them, I noticed. I know it is for like SD9s.
Yeah, it's something to consider if you're going to be going to, replace the motor. You might consider getting a Genesis one and just some new dog bones for it too. Mm-hmm. The cost of the dog bones and maybe those cups that connect the worm gear to the dog bone might not be that much more. So let's see here. Along the lines of the GMD GP38-2, we have a request for would you do an Ontario Northland GMD GP38?
So is that a GP38 or GP38-2? Because both are appealing, let me tell you.
Yep.
Well, we're looking into
Peter Libby asked for spine car reruns, please. Peter, just wait till the end of this week. I think you're going to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, definitely.
We have Stefan Loeb. Is Prime for Grime just for the RTR series, or would you consider the Genesis line too? Prime for Grime DRG GP40-2s would be an awesome, and that's a request. So thank you for that, Stefan.
I agree, Stefan. As long as they don't have any UP patches on them, I'm fine with it.
Oh, come on. I know Tim Hannum would be after the UP patched ones.
Oh yeah, and I know people would like those. So that wouldn't stop us from making them just because I don't like them.
Yeah. No, one of the first ones we did, first Prime for Grimes that we did were those Grand Trunk GP30-2s, weren't they, Chris? Those were Genesis. Because you and Mike Buddy did a weathering segment with Ken Patterson on them. Yep,
that was our what we it started off as a hashtag called Ready to Rust with the number 2, and we wanted it to be more encompassing, so we made it more Prime for Grime, but we wanted to keep the hashtag alive. And anybody that does sort of weathering or dirtying, be sure to do a hashtag in your photo, because we have a blanket search out for customer generated content like that. Just do a hashtag ready, the number 2, Rust. It'll pull up, and then we can also share it onto our Facebook and also our Instagram or Twitter. So feel free to do that. We'd be happy to check out what everybody's been working on lately. So let's see what else we got here. We got Bob. Would really like to see Genesis grade buy and tri-level open auto racks. Well, we do have a buy and try open auto rack. And actually we have a group open for pre-order still. Feel free to drop by and check them out. We released several really cool road names on that, including the Rio Grande, Western Pacific, Union Pacific. These are all brand new road names for that particular body.
What rack is on the F89F, guys? Is that the Whitehead and Kales rack?
The one we do is a Whitehead and Kales.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So we also have a few people looking for straight GP38s and GP40s. So appreciate that request. Those things are distinctive and they last a long time. They have a lot of railroads. I mean, it'd be something we'd be interested in checking into a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and the rebuilds are a daunting thought, but the rebuilds are cool too whenever they would get updated to -2 or even now -3 specs. Pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll just go on for another minute here, unless if there's something else you guys got coming up. Someone to our topic of repowering and doing some kind of tweaking around with some blue box stuff, Sam Genova, I need to bulk buy replacement gears for my blue box engines. And that's a sentiment that we all kind of felt, quite honestly.
Hey, George, what Jeeps was the MOP running? Were those straight Jeeps or were they Dash 2s?
They had a few 38s, and then they went to 30-2s primarily. I think they had 328 of them or something like that, 326 GP38-2s all the way up till the merger. But they originally had, there weren't very many. I want to say there was maybe 50 or 100 of the regular GP38s. Maybe not even that many now that I'm thinking about it. But when they were delivered in the 800 series. And then the renumbering in mid-70s, they went to the 2000 series. And they had the U23s as 2350 and moved forward. Well, when they started getting more, 2250 and forward, when they started getting more of the 38-2s, they renumbered the U23s and the B23-7s up to the 4600s. So that they could have room for more GP38s. But they were primarily GP38-2s and SD40 and SD40-2s.
Okay.
They were big and heavy into the EMD power.
Okay, and typically all non-dynamic too.
Correct. All of those were non-dynamic, except at the end there were 100 units of the SD40-2C, which were designated as coal, which you guys have done some in the RTR series, but they had the first 20 had the nose lights and the rotary beacon on top, so they were designed and built with dynamic brakes for interchange for the coal train pull power, and so that was why they were -2 with C as in Charlie. And then the later versions of those were all delivered without the light package, just the dynamic braking.
Okay. And then the SD50, of course, those came with dynamics because I don't think you got an option at that point.
Correct, but those were never delivered in the blue. Those were only delivered in the yellow canary.
Right. Okay. All right.
David Hyde asks a question. Is the parts department still open and shipping? Right now, with the pandemic, things are kind of slowing down as far as that's concerned. A lot of us are working, as you can see, from home. So if it's a part that we have on our website, you can definitely get that. You can order it. You can order it directly through athearn.com and get it right away. If it's a parts request, you might want to wait till the stay-at-home order is done and over with, and maybe we can help you out with your part request. So let's see here. We got one more request, and then we're going to pull the pin on this live broadcast. We have Jordan Willani. Request for a GE AC6000 in HO. Something that Matt would like, so we can't have that.
Right. Is it really something I want? I don't know. Yeah, the AC6000 is, it's desirable. I would enjoy producing the product, but it's so limited. And I know that the first rebuttal to that is going to be, well, the SD90 Mac Phase 2, that was limited. But there was some other reasoning for doing the SD90 Mac. But the GE, that I'm still on the fence on that one. I mean, I'm all for it for the BHP one just because it's Australia. So, but who knows? We'll see. Time will tell.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. Had a lot to get through, so this was kind of a long one here, and really appreciate George coming in, answering some questions, and showing off some of the things that you've been working on. Matt, Janik, always thank you. It's a pleasure. Really excited to see what you've both been working on, and looking forward to the next Train Tuesday, where we can kind of update a little bit of the progress and see how things are coming along. So everybody out there, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks.